calendar invite.
Yes, I don't
Yes,
think we.
but that only went to commissioners.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so,
So I think we are live. I have not checked. I'm just trying to check. West Hartford Community Interactive. And 1 second. I should have had this up too.
looks like the mayor's state of the town address has been postponed. You guys heard that?
Yeah.
It's going to be this Friday, but I think because of the weather, she's put it off.
I can't see us. Can anyone see us? On.
I don't know if is there a sign that Steve and I can see?
Clean Energy Commission.
Oh, you want me to go to the?
Looking at it right now. Okay. You're there.
Very good.
Okay, we are there. I'm sorry that took me too long to verify, but Bernie, go right ahead.
All right, good. Good evening, everybody. I'm Bernie Pelletier, and I chair the Clean Energy Commission. This meeting, as you can tell, is being conducted virtually. Members of the public can view it on West Hartford Community Interactive, Comcast Channel 5, or Frontier Channel 6098, or on YouTube, www.whctv.org. And you can also call in on 408-418-9388, access code 2339-446-0874. And I'll read this password. If you're trying to do this, please have a pencil. Capital Q, capital V, little p, little g, capital G, V, U, little v, little u, I should say, 4Y66. And if some of you are wanting to participate on WebEx, along with Stephen, Catherine, and I, Catherine just sent out the WebEx link to the group, the larger group beyond just the commissioners. So welcome to those, however you're watching. And I guess roll call is pretty easy for me to do. Stephen and Catherine, you are here. I think Max, Dave, and Joe are not here. And here's a phone.
Hi, Mark Merritt's on the line.
Hi, Mark. How are you? Welcome.
Well, good, thank you.
And that's Mark Merritt.
Yes.
Hi, Mark. Welcome.
All right.
Mark, would you prefer us to send you a WebEx link, or are you good there on the phone?
I'm good right now on the phone. I'm trying to get my laptop to work for me right now, so I dialed in.
All right. Okay, we've gone through the roll call. Catherine and Stephen, can I get a motion to approve our minutes from the January 26th meeting?
I put forward a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
Okay, all approved.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, we're moving now. That's good. We had initiated a discussion about our organizational structure, which had a lot of prongs. One of the prongs was that one of our commissioners resigned, and we were looking to replace that commissioner. Another prong was that we now know that we have some issues that we need to resolve. So until we get those organizational issues straightened out, we're pausing our discussion until we talk about what the SAG is recommending, because we really fall into a broader set of recommendations. And I can see that we have been joined by Max. Max, welcome. And Christine Feely, who is a member of the public, is also joined. Welcome, Christine.
Bernie, you can see the agenda, right, up on my screen?
I can indeed, yes. Thank you.
I didn't know tell me if you want me to take it down at any point so that we can see people's faces.
I have an agenda right here, so we're just going to talk about HeatSmart and ground mount and the business education next. So maybe take it down. We can just look at each other. Great. So give a quick update on HeatSmart West Hartford. The team that is the volunteer team that is working on this met last night. We reported that we're off to a good start with just the press release, which came out, I believe, on February 8th or 9th, and it was circulated on social media and weha.com. We have so far had 84 residents express interest in either a HES audit, home energy solutions audit, or some form of heat pump or insulation or solar. So it's been a very good start. We haven't done any broad outreach yet, just a press release, and we're heartened by the fact that so many people are coming in. The team last night, we have a great volunteer team. Christine Feely, who's on this evening, and her husband Kevin, along with Mike Leone, Catherine Davini, myself, Dan Becerra, Joe Campanella, and Catherine, if you can think of one I'm leaving out, let me know. But it's a great team. We're covering a lot of bases. Henry Millward is another person. We are talking about staffing an Earth Day event on April 23rd over at St. Augustine's School. We're preparing for Celebrate West Hartford, and we're also looking to set up some library events and get some mailings out to town residents. So we're making some good progress on that. Catherine, anything you would add to that? You were there last night.
No, and Christine was too. I would just add that if you guys have any ideas about how to spread some more outreach, let the team know.
Great. And we'll double back to that when we talk about business education with the Chamber and the Department of Economic Development. But something that we also have worked on, I think maybe as much as a year ago, we sent a letter off requesting that the town council take a look at our pretty restrictive regulations on ground mount solar. And those restrictive regulations really arose when there was a pole mounted tracker, which is quite a substantial installation, was placed very close to another resident's house. The pole mount, for those of you who don't know, can elevate itself up and down, and it can take the solar array and tilt it at different angles to try to track the sun. And at various points as it was tracking the sun, it actually exceeded the height requirements that were permitted. And if you can imagine being the neighbor to that, it wasn't a good situation. So the town council basically said in a lot of the good part of the West Hartford R6, R10, and R13 lots, it's really prohibitive. In larger lots in West Hartford, it is still permitted, like R20s, R40s, R80s, but again with some restrictions. So we met with Todd Dumay, and that's Catherine and myself, and said, how do we go about addressing this? Can we go back to the town council? And we came upon this, I'll call it a two-pronged strategy. Prong one was to make sure that we understand what these restrictions are, and within the restrictions, even as they're written, to make sure that if there are any options that we have available to us, and one example might be something like a carport over a driveway, that we run that by the town council and our residents to make sure that even though this restriction, even though the excuse me, the regulation is restrictive, there are probably some installations that are permissible that people simply don't know about. So that's sort of option prong one. Prong two is to go out and really survey the list of different ways that ground-mounted solar has been done, both getting pictures as well as product brochures, so that we can look at what's possible and go back to town planning and say, here's the array of technology that's out there, understanding that we're concerned about the aesthetics and sort of just general neighborliness in West Hartford. Which of these look to be okay? And once we sort of get that list, then we would go back and see if we could get those approved. So 2 prongs to make sure we understand all the options that we really still have. Second prong to look at the technology that's there and see what we would like to put in those smaller lots where there is so much restrictive solar now. So that's as far as we've gotten. I think our next step is to meet with the town planner and share what we've come up with from the technical review of ground mount. With having said that, if anybody on the call tonight, either on WebEx or who is watching, has in their minds, if you see a solar installation, you say, boy, that would make sense on a small lot in West Hartford. We're definitely looking for all those types of things. So feel free to please send it to us so we can add it to our list of things that we found. Any discussion on that, Catherine? Anything I missed? Catherine, you are on mute, I think.
I am. No, I think you summed that up well. Did we have a date for the next meeting? I can't remember.
We had a date, and then I think there was a conflict. So at this moment we don't have a date. And if I could just take a moment of whatever you call it, executive privilege. I don't know if that's the right term. Christine, you had written that you wanted to make a comment on this. I think you were talking about solar canopies, but you can wait to the end where we have public comment, or since I think your comment is about this topic, if you want to just unmute and let us know what your comments are, please.
Okay, well, to start with, I wanted to say that I'm really happy to see that the commission is continuing to pursue the ground mount solar allowances, and thank you for allowing me some time to speak. And my comment is really related, but it is about solar canopies, and I would really like to see those get underway in West Hartford. I don't know enough about all the planning and permitting and that sort of thing that needs to get done to be able to say much more about it, but I frequently hear, or not infrequently hear at least, people say, well, we can't do this, that, or the other toward clean and renewable energy because we don't have enough sources. We've barely started on all the possibilities to get clean energy, so we don't even know at this point, and certainly compared with the greater energy efficiency, which is part of our energy plan, the updated energy plan, we really should be just pursuing everything possible. West Hartford has plenty of potential for solar canopies. I mean, I did a little survey the other day, and I'm sure there are better, much more comprehensive surveys, but obviously Town Hall, Pioneer Hall, other school parking lots and local parks. One location I'd really like to see a solar canopy is the newly redone parking lot at Wolcott Park. You may or may not be aware that the lights on the tennis courts, pickleball courts, and basketball court are on. I don't know what time they go off. They're on at 9 o'clock at night, and that's a pretty good bit of light. I mean, that would involve some storage, but you know, or maybe we need to turn them off some of the time. I don't really know how much energy they pull, but I drive over to my daughter's house and 8 o'clock at night, or 6 o'clock at night in the winter, and all the lights are on. And I mean, if it's warm, there are actually some people playing pickleball, but most of the time not. So again, I urge the commission to get the ball rolling on this. Effort is certainly in line with, the clean energy plan and the climate emergency resolution. So I really like to see that get underway. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. And yeah, I too am a big fan of solar canopies. The study that we have worked on would suggest that if you just limit installations to parking lots that have 100 parking spots or more, if you just built all of those, and we won't do that for a variety of reasons, but a reasonable estimate of the output from that, roughly 8,400 parking lots across the state, would be about 37% of today's electricity use. So they are expensive to build. That's one of the issues and why there's not more of them. But the potential, as Christine has indicated, is substantial. That there's a lot of clean energy on already degraded areas, if you want to call parking lots already degraded. So perhaps at a future meeting, we could just have an exploratory discussion of that. Maybe Catherine, if you're taking minutes, maybe make a note that we could just sort of introduce that topic.
I might say one more thing, Bertie. I did glance at, I only downloaded it this afternoon, but I did take a look at the PACE report. And it includes some of the really important things, like it alleviates heat islands, which is a big concern there. So there are a number, as you know, obviously, because you worked on it, there are a number of things that are accomplished by solar canopies, and they're not all having to do with clean energy, but they're all environmental.
Oh, you're right, and thank you so much for bringing that up. Going to move on to, so we talked in the old business section about HeatSmart, which is a residential outreach program. At our last meeting, Stephen, you had talked about a meeting that you and Kristen Gorski, I think, had in Elmwood, where you introduced local Elmwood business owners to the Small Business Energy Advantage program. And I think you were suggesting that this is something that we could do townwide. Want to give a little background on what's transpired since?
Sure. So I'm treasurer of the Elmwood Business Association, and so my neighbor here, ESC Environmental Systems Control, who does commercial building automations, the energy efficiency stuff. So they gave a presentation. A lot of the guys liked it. So we've had a call with Kristen and a bunch of people. So we're going to try and coordinate maybe a Zoom call meeting or something to include all the business associations, the Chamber of Commerce, to participate on the commercial side for energy efficiency and what's kind of available for commercial properties.
Yeah, it's fair to say when you brought that up, I was ecstatic, and in full honesty, I think I speak for the rest of the commissioners. We've tried to have outreach to business, but we just have been unsuccessful. And so the fact that you yourself are a businessman and are able to talk to them, introduce these programs, which I think really are some of the early steps are virtually costless, and then some of the recommended measures are really presented in a way that they are guaranteed to more than pay for themselves. That really does two great things. And I think the fact that Kristen Gorski, who's economic development, is on this suggests it strengthens the business community. And one of our thoughts is, if you're a businessman and you have $1 of sales or $1 of expense reduction, the $1 of expense reduction is much more potent in terms of improving your bottom line. You have to have probably 7 or 8 sales dollars to pay for $1 of expense. So I think it's good for business, and it's clearly good for West Hartford's environment as well. When you see old air conditioning equipment, old boilers, old you know, old outdated equipment that's not efficient, let alone lighting and control systems, it's just a waste. And so this would be great. I think the next step is to work with the chamber, with Chris Conway from the Chamber of Commerce, yourself and Kristen, and get some outreach going on this. So I'm really excited. And the hope is we're just going to get West Hartford generally, whether you're a resident or a businessman, focused on what's possible. There's just easy opportunities to make a big difference. There's a lot of what people like to call low-hanging fruit out there.
Yeah, I think, I think when you said you tried this 7-8 years ago, I think the programs are much more robust now. So it's a lot more attractive to a lot of more commercial buildings. So maybe, easier to get more people involved in it now. And see what happens.
The programs, they do change year to year. So if people were disappointed in 2014, they definitely worth another look. It's no secret to any of us, least of all you, Stephen, that world events are driving up a lot of energy prices. And so even if some people said, it's not worth my time to worry about the cost of 100 cubic feet of gas or a gallon of oil or a kilowatt of electricity, I think on all of those energy sources, they're all more expensive. And so it's worth everybody's time to spend some time and attention trying to reduce those costs.
And I think previously we didn't have the right combination of people at the table to kind of organize this and do the outreach. So Steve, thank you very much for initiating it. And I think this is a much stronger collaboration. Bernie, I was going to mention, Kristen sent an email late in the day about, Mark, did you want to comment on that first?
I know I have something different.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring up.
Okay. Bernie, I was just going to mention the pamphlets and stuff. I can order some of those from Eversource on behalf of the town. Do you know who the best person who did you get yours from? Because I can just reach out.
Great. I under HeatSmart, I had asked Devon Williamson, who's our Eversource residential contact, and she worked within Eversource to get those for me.
Okay. I'll ask my customer service representative. We have a new one who hasn't been as responsive as our last one, but I will, that's a good topic for me to go through him on.
I'm under strict orders from my wife to make sure I move all these pamphlets out of my office and into town hall. So even if you get more, you're going to get the ones. And Mark, I'm sorry, we took our time getting to you.
Oh, that's quite all right. But Bernie, I thought it was your office. So why does she care if you got pamphlets in your office?
I like the way you think, Mark. I've gone down that path and it doesn't end well. That's all I can say.
You were speaking about the chamber, and I didn't know if there was an opportunity to maybe provide the mayor a couple of bullet points as to what we're doing, because since she's speaking on Friday at the chamber event for the state of the town, so I don't know how much you can maybe just give her a line or two to mention what's going on for the Clean Energy Commission, and if she's speaking, state of this town.
I will send her a quick email. That's a great point, Mark. I don't know if Kristen has talked to her about it already. I have not.
Okay.
That's a great point.
And I agree. It is a great point. And I think I got a letter from the chamber that her meeting has been moved date. So let me just.
Because probably the impending snow for Friday, and that's why they're going to move it.
Yes, and I'm just going to take your point as so Friday, March 4th is the new date, and it's 11:30 to 1 p.m. and it's at the Pond House Cafe, and I think they're getting close to being sold out, but it's $55 for non-members and $45 for members, and registration closes 5 p.m. March 1st. So. That's an excellent point. Whether we go or not, I think a couple lines. This is really pertinent to probably most of the people that are in the room. Okay, so we have some new business. Catherine, I'm not quite sure how it came to be about, we're going to talk about SolSmart, which is I think it was Sustainable Connecticut brought a speaker in from the Great Plains Institute to brief us.
Well, I'll give you some background because this has been on my radar for a while. And Chris, this actually plays into some of what you've been talking about along the lines of encouraging solar as well. So SolSmart is a certification program available for towns. It's kind of a technical assistance program run by the EPA or Department of Energy. And they have staff available, paid staff, and one of them who is available to work with towns in the Sustainable Connecticut could provide technical assistance and walk us through becoming what they call SolSmart Bronze Certified. Now, this is a program that is aimed at streamlining the solar permitting process, and there are some different action items you can do. Some of these things are simply, creating a very clear process for solar permitting and things on your website, just providing all the information in one place. So that's easily doable. Chris, another item, which is along your lines, is providing kind of a map of potential solar locations in your town. And that could be something as simple as providing the same Google map that's in our current energy plan to show where the more attractive areas are and what the overall capacity for the town for solar is. And then there are other things that you can earn points for towards certification. That get more difficult and more controversial, like offering discounted permitting fees, priority treatment, shortened review approval processes, things like that. So this program has been in existence a long time. The first time we went through sustainable certification, I asked our building department to look at it, see if what we were doing already qualified, because sometimes it does. And there were certain aspects of the program that we are in full compliance with, and other aspects of the program that they weren't sure would work for West Hartford, who typically does not like to preference one project, or one type of project, for example, solar, over another type of project. Say, for example, an addition or a bathroom renovation or something like that. So, that we left that one alone. That was not one of the actions we chose to pursue for certification. So, fast forward, and we did not pursue certification on that action item in this past round either. So, fast forward to today, and Sustainable Connecticut has just rolled out a very comprehensive assistance program for getting, for encouraging communities to assess where they are in terms of SolSmart certification and see if they could potentially achieve bronze certification by just doing a few things. So their interest is in helping communities assess their baseline and what might be achievable and what might not be. So I've encouraged our building department and our planning and zoning department to take a hard look at this program. We're using Sustainable Connecticut's technical assistance programs for some other things the town is working on. It's free resources. The people are very knowledgeable. It's a really kind of hands-on process, and they walk you through a lot of things. So that's where we are. And on Friday, we're going to have a meeting with the building department and planning and zoning, and Bernie and me and some other folks to kind of decide if this is you actually have to sign a letter of agreement and commit to the technical assistance program. So there is a little bit of level of commitment. So a bunch of folks, we watched a webinar a couple of days ago on SolSmart to kind of get up to speed. And on Friday, we're going to meet and make a determination of whether West Hartford wants to sign up for this program, which I'm crossing my fingers. Because, you know, I believe that just like with ground mount solar, you know, things change over time. And maybe the town, and I think it's valuable anyway, just to kind of assess what our baseline is in terms of this program. And then we can, you know, decide whether we want to pursue other actions towards certification or not, you know. But I think it's a good exercise for the town to go through, especially 7 or 8 years later.
And Catherine, I think you said this, but the thought is we're pretty close to bronze level. So it's in terms of, it's not a heavy lift for us to get the basic level of accreditation. Is that fair?
I think, and I've heard from our building department that bronze might be achievable with not a lot of extra lifting. But again, I don't know what the hangups were in the past thoroughly. So I think it's useful to have that conversation, yeah, and see where we are.
Yeah, and I think why it's attractive to me, I clearly don't want to burden town staff any more than they are, but it does kind of raise a flag of intention. I think the towns that have already achieved the bronze designation, and there aren't too many, are more or less saying they're hanging out a sign open for business on this. So it's a signal, among other things. And it could streamline.
Yeah, and there are at least 9 communities in Connecticut already that are SolSmart certified. Most at the bronze level, but some at the silver level.
Can I test your memory? I think Branford is one of them. Fairfield.
Yeah, I don't have the list.
They tend to be the progressive communities that. Not that the others aren't, but thank you very much, Catherine. The next new business item is really a request of the commission or anybody listening. Starting at 2022, PURA, Public Utility Regulatory Authority, changed the residential and non-residential solar tariffs, which is a long-winded way of saying they changed sort of the value proposition of solar, and they did some things that are both favorable and advantageous, and a little bit, with one hand they gave, and with the other hand they made it a little bit more restrictive. So as I understand it, there's a residential buy all, I should say sell all tariff, which you put solar on your roof and you don't even use it in your installation. You just sell it off your roof and get a financial compensation for it. And then there's old-fashioned what's called net metering, where you use it in your own premises. If you need more, you buy it just like anybody else. And if you make more at a given moment, you sell it. So that's called net metering. But some of the terms of net metering change. So we thought it would be a good service to West Hartford to really have an informative webinar on the solar tariffs that are out there, so residents know. Probably a lot of people have heard something change but don't know what it is. So I think and Eversource is willing to put up their hand and help, but it would be great if somebody, one of the commissioners, Max or Mark, you're I guess not officially a commissioner, but you made the mistake of declaring interest, so that's.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for.
And I'm happy to help organize. I also put this on the agenda just as, do we think, and this is akin to that EV conversation we had, the community conversation about EVs, where literally I think we organized it in, a couple of weeks. It was very quick, coordinating with Maura to get a potential date at the library, and then just getting a few speakers. So I'm happy to do that, but I guess I would like to hear from you guys as well, what mix of speakers and kind of what format you think residents would engage in. I think with the EV session, we got about 40 people, and we had about 65 signups, you know, so, that's
Good.
that's a good crowd for a Thursday evening. So do you guys think, especially with all the rules changing and the things that Bernie's talking about, I think this could just be one more tool in our toolbox to kind of continually beat the drum on different programs and things that are out there.
Has this commission gone, we'll call it viral, we'll call it, going to, you know, John Lyons and Ronnie Newton's live Facebook and hitting them as well as being a speaker and talking about it on their program? You've got Rocky Holland that does one as well on West Hartford TV. You've got Rise Up with Don Ennis. There's a couple other ones. They're always looking for content, and a lot of the programs are looking at how to clean energy and everything else. Have we thought about going on to any of those programs before? In addition, not just the library, but getting other folks that are just more wanting to stay at home and watch a little video and keeping it out there.
So,
Not this group once we thought about doing some video. Well, you did a video for West Hartford Community Interactive, but we haven't looked at many of those other platforms you just mentioned that I know of, right?
yeah.
That's the first time I'm hearing about some. I mean, I know WeHa, but I don't know that, I didn't know that they have a live streaming thing or something.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a number of programs like John Lyons does it, and I think it'd be perfect because he's the town meteorologist, we'll call it, and does a lot of other things there too. So it could be an opportunity for us just to hit another different medium to get the word out.
Yeah, so I think there's two things here. There's the subject matter at hand, which I think is important in its own right. And then how do we get that into our 64,000 residents' minds? Stephen and I did what Catherine was referring to. We did a half-hour, 24-minute little webinar on biofuels as a clean fuel. I can't say that we're knocking the cover off the ball on YouTube. I think maybe Stephen and his wife and his kids and myself watched it, but other than that, I don't think we've got a. So, Mark, what you're putting on the table is, yeah, it's one thing to have the medicine. We got to get it. We got to get it, to the people. And
well, I mean, and that's what you're right. So that's kind of where if you're doing the library event, where you're getting 40 people, and if you get another different 40 people at Rocky's show or Dawn's show, another 40 people. So then you start spreading the word there. And the other person I would probably think about is, if you're dealing with Eversource here, is Jonathan Harris is now working for Eversource.
Mm-hmm.
Town, dignitary, we'll call him, right? And so do you get him on a program, and that attracts more people? And then maybe do something around the Earth Day, April 23rd, so then there's a big splash, and then a couple of ads some places.
Yeah, and
I mean, I think
we had. Was somebody else? Even if we had the event as a library event, we would film it, and we could condense it. And I don't know. I know John Lyons. I see him on Facebook. I know he's the meteorologist. He's warning me about Friday, and he has some ominous looking weather graphs out there. The other folks that you talked about, I only see them on Facebook. So there's probably a lot of channels that I just don't know.
Yeah, so I think there could be a coordinated, media campaign, we'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we target around Earth Day, I mean, that's a perfect time to maybe just do the rounds.
So, I guess I'll be the voice of reason for now, and I don't know whether with all the activity around HeatSmart this year, whether we have the capacity to launch a full-on solar campaign as well, which was why I kind of proposed this as kind of a one-off thing. I would love to put together a series of things, but it seems like we have a lot of people working on HeatSmart. So I don't know what people's capacity are going to be to launch another series campaign.
Well, So I think by you being the voice of reason, I think that means we're all unreasonable. That's what you're saying, right?
No, I just, I don't want us
She's being a
to,
realist.
don't
We
want
can only
us
tackle
to
one at a time.
overextend ourselves, and
No. I'm obviously just kidding. But I do, Catherine, I think a lot of people are in the dark what happened. And I think if we can get a date, maybe close to Earth Day, because I think a little bit of time to do one event and then maybe use the different channels. It sounds like, Mark, you're familiar with what they are. I think we could probably take that one event and magnify it just through social media. So I would be in favor of that, and I think we can. I'm sure we can find a speaker. I know Eversource is. One of the big things is the management of the residential solar program went from the Green Bank, I think, to the utilities. So I think they are actually charged with educating the public. I think that's now in their control. So I think if we get a date in April, let's see if we can't.
we asked that question at a webinar. I know I asked if they were available to do presentations, and they said yes. And
They
I
said
forget
yes.
who that was. Do you remember who that was, Bernie, the person?
I don't remember, but I'm sure we could find them easily enough.
Okay.
I'm thinking this would be a 50-minute event with hopefully we could arrange it in such a way that it could be sort of reduced and distributed through other forums like Facebook too. Because I don't think anybody on Facebook is going to watch a 50-minute event.
And what do you guys think people, West Hartford residents, would like to, I guess I was hoping to get a few ideas of what would engage West Hartford residents to do solar. I know we have, because we put them in a slideshow presentation several years ago, a lot of photos of West Hartford homes with some with very tasteful solar installations on them, and I think just flashing off a whole bunch of West Hartford homes. So saying, these people did it, you can too, kind of thing. And here are examples right in town. I think that speaks. I obviously think we need a person to explain the programs. And maybe not so much focus on the difference between the past and the present, but explain the present.
Yeah.
And what it looks like, what the landscape looks like now. Would it be helpful to have people who own solar speak to it, or what do you think for kind of a?
I think if you have testimonials from folks that have been put it in and are using it, I think that's very powerful. And your fellow residents, your neighbors. Why? I got a neighbor that just put some in the other day, and down the street, somebody put in Tesla's solar program.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so what are the different programs and what's the benefits for it? What's the outlay? What's the cost? So I think if you're having that from somebody that actually did it and is seeing some benefits from it, I think that's perfect.
Yes.
Because that's kind of what we did with the EV thing. It was more from the owner's perspective, and we're here to answer your questions.
I think that's the most compelling thing we can bring to bear. Other groups can, speak to the business offering or whatever.
One of the
But
things that
I think people who have leased it, people who have bought it, people with new roofs, people with old roofs, those kinds of variables that are on people's minds.
Is that too much for one session? Is it a two-part thing? One about the programs and the different models, although that session's going to be like bleh. And then one session about from the owner's perspective, or do you think we can do all of that in one session, or is that overload?
I think you can do it in one session. I want to jump. We're talking about residents, but Stephen, I have a recollection. You also know some commercial companies that have it as well. So maybe there would be two, one commercial, one residential.
I'm not sure is the library format the correct one for commercial?
Yeah, that might be
No.
a good point.
No, because on the commercial side, there's a lot of tax benefits that the library can't get a hold of. But don't miss the main, to me, what really gets people interested is the dollars and cents. And so if you're going to take Mr. Jones's house, great. Well, here's what they were paying for electricity before for the last 2 years on average. And here's a year afterwards on average what they're paying. You know, that's what piques up people's interest to stay into it. And then on the commercial side, I know I looked at it here and I just, things happen. I missed the boat. But, you know, I'm kind of glad that now I didn't do it, because we were looking at doing 100% offset and it was $100,000 for my office. And you said, wow, that's a lot of money. Okay, well, but then I had a 30% tax credit. So it was like I wrote the IRS a check for $30,000. And then I can write the whole thing off up to 85%. And if you don't have a lot of equipment, you can do it in 1 year, write it off, which means I had my $100,000 back within 4.5 years.
Yeah.
So it was a great financial deal. But it was only going to take up, you know, quarter of one of my roofs. Well, now I can do all the roofs and make money on the thing with the new rules coming out. So that's how you really got to get people interested, is the dollars and cents. Not like, you know, solar looks great. Well, what do I care? You know, it costs a lot of money. Okay, well, but here it is down in the numbers what it does for you. And that's what will get people really interested.
Great. So, yeah, so I think there's clearly a business angle, but you're right, Catherine. I don't think the library is the right venue for that. It might be sort of, we could piggyback on the work you're doing with the various the Chamber of Commerce in Kristen. This might be just another episode. And then to jump back to what Max was saying, yeah, I think a service that we can provide is to just lay out the different categories that West Hartford homeowners find themselves in, and see how solar can mesh into their house and into their pocketbook. So.
Okay, well, I didn't mean for this to take up so much time, just to make sure that we are on board. So, and around Earth Day might be a good, I'll get with Maura, who does the online programming for the library, and see what the availability is for an evening session. And then is anyone on this call interested in kind of exploring with me kind of different segments and speakers and a slide deck? Or else I can put something together and bring it to the next meeting.
Sure, I can help you with that. It's fine. If you want to put some stuff together, we can work on it together then for the next meeting.
Thanks, Mark. That'd be great.
I think that would be fantastic. No, that's really great. And Catherine, I think so far in West Hartford, we have maybe close to 800 solar installations on residence roofs.
Yeah.
But I think there's room for thousands more have roofs that would be good. So I think we ought to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Catherine, you've in your spare time, you've been shepherding the SAG along and playing a role there, and it looks like you've got a summary of their recommendations, and you're going to share a little bit of that with us.
Yeah. So the other group that I am the staff liaison for is the Sustainability Advisory Group. And I apologize because Bernie, we did talk about maybe sending this out ahead of time, and that did not happen. So I'm going to walk through and not hit every slide in this presentation. And this is a preview, so don't share this with anyone because the SAG will get really mad at me. But they wanted this group's feedback as well. I know that Christine is part of that group, and Bernie's been to some of the meetings too. But this is the last this is still a draft presentation of recommendations. Where is it?
We're not sharing it with anybody. I think only because we don't have that many people who watch this commission, but we are on public TV, so. If there's any
Yeah, I know.
secrets.
Obviously, yes, I know that. Okay. Yeah. So the public out there, yeah, so if any of the council members watch this meeting, they'll get a little preview of what they're gonna see. Hopefully on March 3rd, we've been told. So that's just a few short weeks away. And we will also be reconvening a meeting of the SAG as well. A smaller group has been working on condensing a lot of their recommendations into this presentation. And the group, even the SAG, you're in front of the SAG, hasn't even seen this kind of condensed version yet. So again, these are recommendations that will be presented to the Public Works, Plant Facilities, and Sustainability Standing Committee of the Town Council. That consists of, Ben Winograd, the chair, Carol Blanks, and Mark Zdanowitz are the three counselors, and the mayor also attends those meetings as well. And other counselors are welcome to as well. So here we go, just to give you some background. The Sustainability Advisory Group was formed to do two things: complete the town's 2021 application to Sustainable Connecticut, and then make recommendations and propose strategies for future sustainability initiatives. About 60 people applied for it, and about 30 people were selected, including 2 students. But as we found, that group was kind of large and tailored itself down over the course of time. Here's kind of, can you guys see this? Let me move this box. Is this really small?
Just get rid of the format background box. Your formatting menu on the right.
Good idea. I can also put it
in slideshow mode too, maybe?
I could do that. Let me see if I can put it in slideshow view.
Up on the top. Yeah.
Here we go. Better? Better?
Yes.
Okay. Everyone good?
That's asking a lot these days, but I think we can all see it.
Okay, yeah, this slide is kind of small, but this shows you that over the course of the 9 months, the committee did several things, held its first meeting, met with the town manager, conducted some visioning exercises and gap analysis, worked on the Sustainable Connecticut application in groups. In November, we were awarded Sustainable Connecticut Silver certification. We took a little break over the holidays. And then a smaller group has convened to kind of consolidate the recommendations and make the presentation to the group. I'm not sure that when I'm in presentation mode, I can flip forward in WebEx.
Can you flip whatever it is can you flip this? You can't, huh?
Oh, there we go. The problem with this is I can't really see which slides I want to cover or not.
Go ahead, we can handle it.
Can you guys see this all right? I can make it a little bigger. Can you see it all right?
Yep.
Sort of. So this just kind of sets the stage with some about what sustainability is, kind of from a global perspective, and then more locally here in Connecticut, we have the Sustainable Connecticut program, which takes a very broad view of sustainability, encompassing 13 different categories at this moment. This is kind of the key slide for the presentation because the group kind of wanted the committee to leave knowing 3 things. Number 1, that they feel we must push forward with sustainability with a sense of urgency, that we need a sustainable West Hartford, what we're calling team, to provide communication and collaboration on future sustainability work. and that the work of this Sustainable West Hartford team will not be successful without the visible support of leadership. And we have some clarifying remarks down there. But then going into each item, the idea that we must push forward, this is kind of a visual representation. It's very busy, but it shows you some of the programs and some of the documents which contain commitments that the town of West Hartford has made to various policies and or resolutions. So embedded in here, for example, is the climate crisis resolution that was just passed, which says it shall be the policy of the town to assess the climate change impacts of all future town actions to achieve net zero carbon emissions from town activities as quickly as practicable and to encourage residents to do the same. So this is just intended to show that we've made these commitments that we need to push forward on. And again, I'm not going to be the presenter. A lady named Julia Farber on the SAG is going to present most of this content. I might present some of these slides, which we're going to look at next, which are more about the nuts and bolts of the Sustainable Connecticut program. So again, in the context of pushing forward, West Hartford is silver certified, but the idea that we can do more. When you drill down to the program, you know, we've completed 13 out of 13 action categories, but that's because we're required to do that for certification. But when you drill down to the action level, the sub-action level, and then the points level, you'll see that we've only done a small fraction of what is available, the actions that are available. And again, this is voluntary actions, but there are a whole bunch of actions out there which show towns what they could be doing.
How do we stack up on points again? Oh,
We're right on that slide. We got 725 points. For silver certification, you're only required 400 points, but our application yielded 725 points, but the whole program has over 2,500 points in it.
I think my question was for the next slide.
Oh, the next slide. Yeah, so how
In relation.
we knew that was coming. So this slide, again, is intended to show us compared to some of the other towns. Don't get me wrong, we are at the top end of things, but again, it's in West Hartford's nature to be competitive, so we are not in the lead. And what this slide is also intended to show, and the Sustainable Connecticut program does such a good job of, is the fact that you can, the program is so transparent, you can go into one town's certification report and see exactly where they've earned their points and what they're doing to earn those points, and then all the documentation that supports the actions they're doing. So when we look at Greenwich, who's earning points for programs and education and outreach on things like watershed protection and water conservation and invasive species management and public transit, areas which we do not really do much in, I have to be honest. You know, there are models out there for us. Same thing with New Milford, who has points for a sustainable purchasing policy and affordable housing plan, which West Hartford is working on, affordable housing plan, you know, but we don't have yet. And there are some other examples. Fairfield is doing things with equity training, brownfields, tree canopy studies, which I know is a big interest of West Hartford, but hasn't been done yet. And the Hartford, who has a real focus through an entire Office of Sustainability focused on environmental justice and equity. And then we have two ways to push forward. In next year, Sustainable Connecticut is coming out with a climate leader designation. So West Hartford qualifies for this and we can submit certification for that. And then in 2023, the gold level of certification will be introduced, and West Hartford is going to need to start planning and deciding whether we're going to look at achieving that level of certification, because there will be additional, you know, it's obviously a whole next level up. So there will be additional work involved. Anyway, we don't have to go through all these slides. Ooh, I'm zooming in and out. Can I get back to a reasonable level? So this is a very small slide, but just showing kind of some of the what categories those points were earned in, and some information about strengths and weaknesses within those different categories. So the next large recommendation of the committee is that we need a sustainable West Hartford team to provide communication and collaboration on future sustainability work. And Steve, I'll be very interested in your take on this, because I know the communication piece has not been very, not always been a strength of the town across entities. So this is very small too. And let's see if I can make it bigger. The idea is that the SAG has run its course, and you know, in fact, what we don't need an advisory group. We need more of a team and a working group that's a mixed group comprised of residents and staff and leadership. So this team would be that mix. It would meet 4 times a year. It would, as this diagram tries to represent, have kind of an external side with a community chair and various commission representatives and some additional youth and residents who, and then an internal chair, which would be more the staff side and the leadership side. And this group would kind of be responsible for coming together and reporting kind of what sustainability actions different groups are working on, identifying if there are any cross-cutting themes, any additional actions that should be characterized as priorities, looking for gaps and ways to collaborate. We haven't quite finished this slide. Does that kind of make sense to people?
So on the left, those are reps on this team. So there would be one member of the Clean Energy Commission, for example.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. So think of them as kind of the liaison to this bigger group.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know whether we have the list entirely correct, but the conceptual piece is that it's this mixed team of staff, leadership, and residents and commission representatives. One more focused on building support and the community outreach and the partner organizations, as well as doing their own things, just like we do in our commission world. And then the other side of it, the internal side, who might be working on implementing, enabling regulations, policies, projects, and programs. You know, I think both sides probably would be working on different projects or collaborating on projects, you know. So that's kind of how they're envisioning, or we were envisioning this thing working.
So Catherine, I can see 2 levels of connection here. So Stephen, I think when you started working with us, you observed how often things kind of fell through the cracks. Well, I think on the left box there, we've got conservation, environment, pedestrian, bike, clean energy, etc. And so I envision in these meetings, all of us would put forth sort of what our priorities and plans were. So we could see, you know, we could know what each other is doing, and we could identify gaps sort of at that time. So that's one level of connection between the commissions. And then the other box really connects us to the town council and the town generally, so that we commissions and associated representatives and residents and youth say, this is okay, this is what we're going to do. And the town says, hey, wait a minute, that's already been done, or we don't want that, or we don't want this. So I think it's in my book, 2 levels of communication. Hopefully some of the stuff that's fallen through the cracks would be caught. And I think there's, not to focus on the negative, falling through the cracks is one thing, but I think there would be so much opportunity for synergy because we would be operating across our various foxholes, I guess you could say. So.
And then this,
Can I ask one more question about the last slide before we move
Sure.
on?
yeah,
It's a big one.
On the left, I mean, are there any commissions focused on commercial activities in the town or industrial? Like,
there is not an economic development commission, no, in town. You'll see we've added, and that might be a gap that people want to consider, but it might be that the chamber and combination of Kristen Gorski and economic development and chamber are kind of fulfilling that role. I don't know enough about that area to speak to that, and neither did the SAG. So again, this is a recommendation. The group does not, this is kind of what they came up with, and what we came up with as a group, the Sustainability Advisory Group. But and why I flipped to the next slide, Max, is to say, you know, they've suggested a path to create this kind of group, which includes where did we, oh yeah, which includes sort of convening a joint meeting of all the relevant commissions and kind of discussing what it is those commissions are doing, and kind of figuring out what the right structure and what the right scope for that group is, because we have a lot of commissions that are in need of kind of revision. Either they were by resolution and need to be by ordinance. You know, as we mentioned at the last meeting, Bob and I are not supposed to be on the commissions, things like that. We may want to expand membership. So the path that they've kind of come up with, and this slide is in draft form, but it's to kind of convene a meeting to see whether other people are interested in this idea as well. But to Steve's point, this could also take the form of maybe hiring an external consultant to come in and kind of look at it. I'm not sure that that we need to do that, but and I'm not sure this is kind of a major overhaul. I think some of it might be tweaks to some of the existing commissions. One of the things that, and that's where some of these thoughts come in, is that, you know, one of the things they've noticed is we have no commission or no group that's focused on waste reduction and materials management. So Max, just as you asked about economic development, someone else asked about waste and materials management. So yeah, so the idea is that maybe we need to take a little time to rethink what commissions do. You know, are they advisory or are they actually implementing projects and education and outreach? And thinking through, you know, what we want them to do might kind of inform better what the structure of those groups and Sustainable West Hartford looks like. And we've kind of what the SAG has figured out, you know, by looking around is having an assigned staff person really helps commissions to be more effective. It seems to be the ones that have staff attend regularly seem to be doing more.
I mean, I do think your comment about the chamber makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need a new commission, but the chamber would be an obvious part of the Sustainable West Hartford team, it would seem to me.
Gotcha. Yeah. So this this slide just covers some of the thoughts on what that kind of rejiggering of commissions would look like, and those, what might be the content of some of those initial meetings. And then the last section of slides deals with this idea of leadership. And we kind of rethought this one a little bit. In the way this is, the context for this is that with the town manager leaving, the SAG is really concerned that a lot of this stuff is going to sit and go nowhere, and not, and they want to, their concern was to show even the people on this committee that there are low-hanging fruit. There are things that they even themselves can do easily and quickly that will make a huge difference. So they structured this as kind of the top 10 things they could do, starting with, of course, implementing number 1 and number 2 by, publicly announcing that we're going to be working towards gold level certification when that level is announced, and kind of rallying people around that idea. Starting the process, whatever that process ends up being to create a new team and reconfigure some of the commissions, but committing to start that process and committing to track progress on that initiative on the Public Works, facilities and sustainability agenda, so that it was a regular monthly item that we were tracking. Oops. So, and these, so this is a slide where if you have an item that you want to include, there's still some debate about what these top 10 or 8 or 12 items could be, but you can read some of these. I'm going to send this presentation out so you guys can look over it at your leisure too. So these are their suggestions, is to ensure that sustainability is a key criteria in the job description, interviews, and hiring for the new town manager. Obviously, using their positions of influence to continually talk about and ask about sustainability. Circulating the climate crisis resolution to all department directors and staff. This is about using sustainability and equity as a review for council agenda items. This is encouraging one of them to be the council member or the elected official who helps us achieve the points for Sustainable Action 1.3. And then there's this idea of renaming the Public Relations Office to become the Office of Community Engagement. And then these are some other ones that are placeholders right now. And then the last slide, main slide is the SAG itself gave itself a to-do item so that they don't feel like they're the only ones doing anything. And you guys could get involved in this process too. Catherine Bruns and I have started to build out content for a new sustainability website for the town. The energy website we have up there now is sorely out of date. So we're looking at developing, we know where it'll slide in. We've already got approval for it, and we're building out content. The way we envision it working is just kind of being built around different sustainability topics, whether it's EVs or solar or food waste reduction, that kind of thing. And then having a little blurb about what the town is doing on this front, what residents can do, and then some bullet point links to resources to get people started. Not trying to achieve too much through this website, really providing links to other sources, because it's very difficult with the town website to have it be constantly dynamic and updated, because everything that's on that website has to go through the IT department to be loaded. And then we're going to provide them, but we're not going to go through. This leaves them or the Sustainable West Hartford team with a starting point of action recommendations. And this is a combination of Sustainable Connecticut actions from the actual program, as well as additional ideas from the SAG members. It's structured, it goes through each of the 13 categories in the Sustainable Connecticut program and breaks their ideas down into short, medium, and long term, and lists some of the key players, including the chamber, including different people, the garden club. They're all kind of slotted into the art league, into their spaces, and recognizing that the SAG was kind of a specific group, and that they didn't know about some of these areas and would need input and collaboration from others. So that's it. So yeah, I'll open up the floor. I'll take it off. Or I can go back to any slides you want now, or I can take it off the screen.
Just want to have a very self-serving question. So right now this commission, we're operating sort of on momentum, but as you said, I think you called it cleanup on maybe slide 15. We were conceived in the wrong fashion. It looks like you yourself have to change your role to this commission. It's difficult to know how to bring new members on, as I think Mark is sitting in as a member of the public, but we want to bring, as we lose members, and we want to bring them on. So I say there's a level of just practical operating this commission that we're facing. The other thing is, I think as we've paid more and more rigorous attention to the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act rules, it's a little bit harder for us to operate collaboratively. I think when we were a task force, we could have, it was a little bit more formal. And so I guess I'm asking, I think we have some things that are fairly high priority to get fixed. Do we have to wait for the whole enchilada to go through? Or can we get to some of these things sort of, we weren't on the top 10 list there, but I would like to get this commission sort of reorganized, not just ours, but the other ones as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can, as a commission, you can request that ahead of this process if you'd like.
I'm not trying to jump the line.
Yeah, no.
A lot of work. And
yeah, I mean, and I think that's perfectly legitimate to request that. And yeah, it may help spur this work along, or they might tell you to wait for this. I think it will just depend what kind of reception this idea gets as it's presented. And to your point, the committee might think this is too much to bite off, and put it on hold, in which case commissions like Clean Energy can accelerate their own process. I think that's totally fine and encouraged, right?
Based on that, they weren't discouraging words. What I would like to do is circulate what I view the commission wanting, and I'll circulate it amongst all of us here tonight and the others that aren't. And if we come to agreement, then we can raise that up the flagpole. Okay. Catherine, the SAG is done. You're going to change the name of the SAG, right? That we're not going to be burdened with that name anymore.
The Sustainable Advisory Group, aka the SAG, is disbanding. They feel like they've done what they were tasked to do. And they, again, don't feel like that advisory group structure is the right structure to carry this work forward.
Right, so you're gonna get a better name than SAG for the working group there.
Yes, well, they've called it Sustainable West Hartford, which is, as you know, Julia renamed SWEHA.
Sweetheart, I love it, I love it.
I
Sweetheart,
thought you were calling it the action team, and I thought, well, it could be SWAT, which is a big change from SAG.
Ah,
I'll take SWAT too.
SWAT.
A little bit intimidating, Christine, but
I got that from Catherine. I was thinking, oh, what will this look like? And I thought, oh, so, or we could be, so what? So what? So what? So what?
so what? Very good.
Anyway, so yeah, if you guys want to have any initial thoughts or reactions to this, it is pretty dense at the moment, so I don't know how much is going to be cut out in the next few weeks. But at the same time, I think there was some feeling that the SAG wanted to, have the committee understand the amount of work and effort and thought that went into this as well.
Excellent.
So Catherine, it's definitely April, not March, right? Somewhere it said March 3rd or April something or other. So it's not March 3rd, right?
It could be March 3rd,
Oh,
actually,
okay.
because the it did say March 3rd or April 7th, but the April 7th committee meeting was just canceled for a budget meeting. And so I was told that if it wasn't March 3rd, and they're still debating whether it goes on the agenda for March 3rd, but if it wasn't March 3rd, then it likely wasn't going to be at all
Until May.
until June.
Until June. Wow.
And
Okay.
the SAG group, of which you're a part, I think the general feeling was
Yeah.
that was they wanted
That's
to
late.
sooner
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah. If
And
you want to
we-
send, if you want, I can read through the slides and do some proofing too. So I don't know if the version that I have it's not the most recent one sent around, maybe is not the one to proof, but there are a few typos.
Yep. Great.
That's a lot of work.
Thoughts, reactions from this group?
There's a lot
And
there.
I guess
There's
I
a
guess-
lot there.
I guess the SAG would like the feedback from you guys, whether you're generally supportive of what they're presenting. That was the intention and behind bringing it to this group and kind of giving you guys a preview of what was going to be discussed, because I don't think they want to put anything out there, and maybe you don't agree with every single recommendation in there, but the general thought process behind everything.
I certainly like the idea of the team bringing us all together 4 times a year and having just necessary engagement with the town and with each other. I think that's long overdue, and it goes a long way to fixing some of the stuff we've all wrestled with. So your little multi-box chart there, I think I definitely like that. And you'll send out the link to that? So Google?
I will.
Perfect.
And feel free to send comments. I mean, that's my job as a staff liaison to broker the communication between different groups, whether people want to hear it or not, but that's a role I can play. Especially if you disagree with some of the major components of their recommendations.
Are you going to take this show on the road and show environmental, E&T, and pedestrian and bike and all the other commissions, or?
There was a hope to do that, but again, this timeline has just blown the whole process right out of the water.
I like it. Max, Stephen, Mark, Kath.
Yep. I liked it.
It's a lot to say grace over, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, and I think the overarching view of what you shared is well, is spot on, so to speak. But the thing is, if they're only going to come, they're recommending 4 times a year, but they need to empower commissions like this to get some to make the stuff happen, right?
Yeah.
And so that's
Idea.
kind of where they need to make that decision.
Yeah.
I think that clearly
Yeah.
identifies that.
And that's, so maybe we can make that clearer in the presentation. Yes, the actual work would still be happening at the commission level. And currently, some commissions are more effective at doing that than others. For whatever reason, some commissions might not know or feel like they have the authority to go out and do projects. I know that Conservation and Environment has been very reluctant, despite encouragement, to do outreach and education. And I think they might be a little bit stuck in the old mold of advising, and I again, that's part of the conversation around what is the new model for commissions or entities that kind of do these.
So I'll tell you on that specific commission that you just brought up, they really are not sure what their role is. I
Right.
have 2 people that I know that are on that commission, and they just they feel that they're not sure if they're there to advise, to get things done.
Right.
So they're confused.
And their charter has not been revised since 1972. So I think it's time to undertake a process where someone with them looks at that, walks through it.
Mhm.
Because it's silly to have a commission out there, that's taking, the people themselves, I think would we want to be working on and contributing more to the town as well.
Right. I mean, and that's I mean, I have no problems. Ronnie Rodman and Rick Bush are the 2 committee members that have told me that the whole committee just doesn't know where they stand and what their mission is.
Yeah. So I think relooking at some of these ordinances and resolutions might help with that. I know that various people who come to our commissions and other commissions are looking for a home for waste reduction, food waste, a lot of people on the SAG. And we even have a recycling coordinator who's would love to staff that group, but none exists.
Yeah, well, Mark, building on that, and Catherine, your comment about an old charter, I think there are so many needs and so many opportunities, whether it be energy efficiency, whether it be reduction of greenhouse gases, whether it be adopting clean energy. The need is just so apparent. I think we're blessed in this town with just an abundance of human capital. And I think the tragedy would be if we can't take willing human beings, capital, if you want to call it that, who want to work on these problems and find the right balance so that we can take our brain power and all the powers that we have and make something happen. I really think it's tragic if we can't solve this puzzle, and I think we can. And I think you're a good ways down the path with that deck that you shared with us. So
Would it make sense to maybe have a meeting with all the commissions together to talk about?
Yeah.
We can put something together, but then everybody else gets all upset, like, oh, you're now telling me what to do. Like, no, I don't know if other commissions seem to be having the same thoughts that they're a little bit lost. There's no communication to everybody. And maybe we can kind of just group ourselves together and straighten, clean up this whole mess and get communications going and everything else back together. And kind of like define our own roles here.
there you go. I think I hadn't focused on that. I think, Stephen, I think that's a great idea. And kind of the sooner the better.
Yeah. Do we want to put a kind of a call out to the other committees to see if they're interested?
Catherine, we have an acting town manager, right? Is our town the replacement for Matt Hart, who's staying, I think, only to the end of this month, which is next week, I think this week is his last week, I think.
That's correct. Rick Ledwith right now is the interim town manager.
And
Like, Catherine, you're on mute.
yeah, if we wait for the new town manager, we'll be waiting for maybe 6 months or something like that. So I think we should forge ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I was on mute, so you didn't hear. Yeah, this was definitely, maybe we should move this to number 1. This was definitely the start of that process, and the SAG was envisioning that, you know, if they liked this recommendation, that would be the kickoff, you know, to start exploring it with the other commissions. Various SAG members do interact with those other commissions, Steve, and they have heard some dissatisfaction from various people and confusion. Yeah, so that's hence this recommendation was folded into the presentation. It became one of the recommendations. So maybe if that's the key point for you guys, you know, that's good feedback, and we can lift that out as highlight that in and downplay some of this other verbiage in these slides.
Yeah, because otherwise you're going to have this presentation seen multiple times in multiple venues, and it's going to be a series of one-offs. If we can kind of get in one room
Yep.
for a while, I think we can speed it all up. I think, famous last words.
It can hurt.
Oh, sure it can.
All right, well, at least the pain will be over quickly.
There you go. Now you're talking. I have any irrational exuberance on this call.
So to your point, Steve, then how about, maybe this is the idea, we move that into one of the, that becomes one of the, oh, I like this idea. That becomes one of these top to-dos. Convene the meeting. Because that's something they can do, or the town manager who also attends those meetings can do. That's something that group could authorize. I mean, I suppose to your point, the commissions themselves could request that meeting. But I think it would happen more quickly and maybe be more effective if the council and the town manager requested it. I don't know.
Catherine, here's a stupid question for you. And that gray box, these are things you can easily champion yourself. Who's the yourself in this? Who's this? Who you're talking to here?
The committee.
The committee.
Anyone who was in the room listening to this presentation. Yep. Really, any leadership. This is the idea of the town leadership. So really, it's focused on the 3 counselors in the room, as well as the town manager and the mayor, and the director of public works and plant and facilities, and me. We're all in the room.
Public works, facilities, and sustainability. That's the champion yourself. Just your little subcommittee of the town council. That's what you're talking to. Gotcha. Okay.
I think the emphasis, though, now that I'm looking at it, it's probably on the counselors themselves, the 3 counselors and the mayor. Or them designating to the town manager. Now that I'm looking at some of these items. I mean, do you think any of these asks are out of line or difficult? Or don't belong?
So this is really Ben Winograd, Carol Blanks, and Mr. Zinowitz. Number 1 through 9 seem good. I can only see 10 is.
Yeah, 10 and 11 were a placeholder, but you know, we can make this 9 and the next one 10.
Are there, you know, when I think of all of these to-dos, are there ones that are short-term fixes or hits, medium-term and long-term?
Of
So
these?
if you chunk it down that way, I think some things might get done.
Well, I think that's up to them to pick, not to be recommended by the group, but whatever floats their boat. I think any one of these things, if they could do just one. Maybe it's not top 9, it's 9 to do, you know, any and all.
I mean, so like number 6, isn't number 6 already, didn't that already happen?
Nope. No, this would be the SAG envisions, and I envision that the actual climate resolution that was passed, I don't believe that any department directors would have actually seen the text of that unless they actually went and looked for it. But this would be circulating that with an accompanying email or memo to let them know that this was passed and kind of highlighting some of the key phrases as that climate change is now one of the lenses that needs to be applied to all town decisions and actions.
So
Just like so.
Yeah, no,
for
I
example,
yeah, I hear you. I mean, I just that once it was passed, you would assume that the town manager would have sent that out as a item on his task list.
nope. I don't believe any resolutions get circulated to departments. So, for example, there's an action in the Sustainable Connecticut program, which requires you to annually circulate your complete streets policy around to make sure that department directors and different departments who are obviously involved, because complete streets might touch different departments, are aware of it and what it means for the town. And again, that's a resolution, a policy, and that one is an actual Sustainable Connecticut action, which for our 2018 certification, I asked, does this happen? And they said no.
It sounds like an old song that I know, Communication Breakdown. All right.
all right.
Interesting.
So Catherine, I think if we can, when's the next meeting of the Public Works Facilities and Sustainability Group there?
That's on March 3rd. Again, I don't know whether this is going to be on their agenda or not. That's being determined right now. Yep, and then if so, Julia will be the one presenting most of this to the council. And she's a much more dynamic presenter, more persuasive presenter than I am. And so she'll probably whip through some of this more quickly and explain it a lot better than I did.
We'll see about that. All right. All right, Catherine, thank you very much. And please send this out and we'll definitely give you comments.
the agenda.
think
So
it's-
I think we've done the Connecticut Sustainable SAG update. That was part of the presentation. I just wanted to let you guys know, in the context of last month's meeting, where I did send around a clarification on the dollars that were allocated for those ventilation projects in the elementary schools. I hope people understood what I had sent around. I had to go ask Bob Palmer for some clarification on where the funding was coming from. It is in fact that there are no federal funding allocated to those projects right now. It is all capital town improvement fund money. But I just wanted to let you know that there is an RFP out right now on the street for both Duffy and Webster Hill. They decided to put 2 of those out to bid right now. So the ventilation projects, and I think the boiler at Webster Hill is also included in that package. Webster Hill is a steam heated school.
And Catherine, I'm sorry.
Maybe they could use solar to heat the water. I'm just trying to get Bernie engaged here
Yes.
in solar energy.
I was gonna ask.
I'll start in. Are they gonna shut off the dirty natural gas and run on bioheat or to heat the building or what?
I don't know what the plan is. We did insert Mike Longo is running those projects. He's our maintenance manager on the Board of Ed side. We did insert some language into the RFPs about determining the best long-range strategy for the schools, including emissions reductions and air quality and sustainability. So, but they were pretty brief RFPs, but there was some wording about that in there that we inserted in.
Energy recovery.
Energy recovery is mentioned in there too. Yes, Bernie, sorry, I meant to tell you that as well. Yep.
I think you did before, but I just wanted to.
Energy recovery, heat pump technology, potential electrification. Those are all, again, briefly mentioned, but they're in there as potential options to be considered.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I don't think COVID is going to go away. I think some variants are. I think we're going to have the flu, and I think we're going to have COVID, and I think for the foreseeable future. And I think indoor school air quality is going to be a big thing. I think we're going to be ventilating more, and I think we don't want to throw out heat as we're ventilating. So it's a real challenge.
Yeah. As part of the Duffy, the windows are included in the Duffy project as well. So that'll tighten up the envelope considerably, which is why they'll need some ventilation.
And this is a de facto choice that Duffy and Webster Hill are not going to be rebuilt. They're basically saying, we are staying with these guys and we're gonna rehab, fix up. That's a choice.
It seems to me that yes, if we sink that much money into these schools, that those schools are going to stay. I know that Bob and I have had some conversations with the town manager about when the town might start considering a building replacement program, but obviously that's not a popular alternative.
Excellent. And I think you're going to tell us that our energy budget is more of a struggle.
I didn't really focus on that for this meeting since I've been working on the SAG presentation. Yeah, I'll have to update you next time on that. I haven't ran any numbers lately, sorry.
Yep. No, it probably is good that you didn't, because they're all going to scramble. I mean, it's out of one ear, I'm listening to news downstairs, and international events are going to impact us here in West Hartford. There's no doubt about it. Stephen, I think you have to be seeing that, watching the board in back of you. I can't see it because you've got it blurred, but
It's off now. It's amazing how, came into work on Monday and it was flying up 10 cents a gallon. And then by the end of the day, it was almost flat. It's really having little effect on the price of fuel.
Yeah.
So just start the war, get it over with, and let's go on.
I hope.
Chips fall.
Okay, guys. 8:47, I think we covered a lot of territory. Thank you very much. Catherine, thank you. And keep our March 3rd is right around the corner.
Next week.
Yes, indeed. February is done.
Honestly, I don't know whether that's going to happen or not, but that's kind of what we were told was it'll be March 3rd or June. So the group's desire was to go sooner rather than later.
Yeah. If it's June.
I'll send that presentation out to you guys in the morning along, and maybe I'll type the minutes up quickly as well.
If it is June, maybe we should see if we can't initiate that group meeting ourselves, or with in conjunction with it, because that's March, April, May. That's a quarter of the year sort of missed. So I'd rather move more quickly than that. Okay. Thank you all, and to the many thousands out there who have been watching us this evening. What are you laughing at, Catherine?
That's awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Bernie.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Steve.
Ciao.
Thank you, Max.
Thanks.
Good night, John Boy.